Hey, what's going on? It's Reapers Electronics. Today we are doing a full cleaning on a PS5. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how to disassemble it and clean everything up, and then what to do with the liquid metal and everything like that. So this is going to be a full disassembly. Stay tuned and see how we do it. Thanks. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is pop off the side cover here, which is real simple. It just slides on and off. So we're just going to slide it back on, and then you're just going to lift up on one of the corners and kind of just hit it downwards really quick. Pop that guy off. And then we need to go ahead and brush this off. I just use a little brush here in order to wipe all the dust off and everything like that. So we're going to dust that off real quick. Alright, so as you can see, it already looks 10 times better. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. We're going to pop the other panel off and dust that one off too. So we're just going to flip this over. And same thing, you're going to lift up on the low end here where the PS symbol is. Just pop that down. And we're going to go ahead and brush this area off here. Alright, now that we have it all brushed off, since we are going to be taking this entire console apart, I recommend taking these two screws out here on the back first. You're going to need a T9 bit, which is like a little star bit, in order to do this. I think it's a T9H bit because it has a little hole in the middle of it. There's a screw right here, and there's a screw in here. We're just going to take those two screws out. The reason that we do that is that it actually holds like the aluminum plate that's underneath the motherboard. It holds that down, which holds like the heat sink and power supply and all that stuff into the console. So we have to take those out before we start to disassemble the console, because it gets kind of challenging to take it apart once you have the console open. Alright, we're going to go ahead and come in here, take all the screws out around the sides of the plastic cover. We're going to take the fan screws out. Alright, now that we have those out, we can go ahead and take off this sticky piece right here. And we can undo the cable for the fan. You just want to pull straight up on that. If you don't, it'll break it. We're going to go ahead and clean that fan out in a little bit. First, we want to disassemble it some more. So you're going to need a small Phillips to take this off here. This is where the SSD would go if you had one. And then there's a little sticker right here that we need to remove to expose the last screw. This is just the warranty sticker, which, if you didn't know, is actually illegal. It's been illegal since the 1970s, but they still put them on there, whatever. And then we need to take off the cable on either side for the disk drive. And we're just going to pull straight up and unweave that. And then pull out the other side. And then we can go ahead and pop this side panel off here, which shows us the middle. As you can see, it is pretty dusty inside of here, especially back up in here. We're also going to have to dust off the panel itself, because it's got dust all over here, and then of course underneath it it's got some dust too, which we can see here. So we're going to have to dust that off. So I'm going to go ahead and dust that off real quick. Alright, so we got the side panel all dusted off there. Now we just need to remove the disk drive here. So on this one, you just push down on the gate here, and then you just pull that ribbon cable out. This little piece right here, you can just break that. It's not really relevant in any case. And then the disk drive just comes up like so. I'm gonna go ahead and brush this off now that it's separated, and then I'm also gonna brush off everything I can find around here and get that a little bit cleaned up there. Alright, so we got this area here brushed off. We're not gonna focus on inside of there just yet. And the reason for that is it's a lot easier to just get when we take everything off the top here. Alright, so we're gonna unweave these cables here. There's 1, 2 that go back through here. There's connected to the power supply, and then there's 2 right here, white and black. And then there's a ribbon cable here that does like the lights and everything. This ribbon cable is for the power and eject buttons. So we're gonna pull that out. Now we're gonna take our T9 bit again and take out all the screws for the aluminum cover. I'm gonna go ahead and cut through this part real quick. Alright, now that we got all this screws out, we can go ahead and take this cover off here, and it just pops up. Comes off like so, and we're gonna have to undo this cable here. This goes to like the USB port and the USB-C port that's on the front of the console. Again, you just want to like push down and back on that little gate there, and then just pull that ribbon cable out like so. We're gonna take our small Phillips here, just undo these 2 screws, and hold down the bracket. Then we can just lift that off. We can lift off the plastic piece there. Now we just need to remove the motherboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift up from this corner over here. Sometimes this little screw for the SSD, the little retaining washer is stuck on the board, so you do have to unscrew that. But in this case it's not, so we're good. So now we have the board kind of loose. We're going to go ahead and use our little tool here, a prying tool. And you don't want to go underneath, you just want to go where this copper shield is here, and just kind of pull up on that to disconnect the motherboard from the power supply. Now obviously this one has overheating issues. As you can see here, there's no liquid metal right there on the APU and right here on the heatsink, and everything's fallen to the bottom. So you can see that this PS5 has been standing up, which on my page, if you watch any of my other videos, I promote do not stand your PS5 up because this happens and it causes overheating and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and set the board to the side for right now. Alright, now we're gonna be focusing on the heatsink first. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a Q-tip. We're just going to push all of that liquid metal to one side. Since it's already at the bottom, we can just go ahead and push it all to the bottom. And then once we have it all pretty much combined there at the bottom, we want to get it as close to itself as we can get it into a little blob. Then we're going to take a syringe with a very fine tip and just suck all of that liquid metal up into the syringe. And then we can just set the syringe to the side. Now we're going to take Q-tips and we're going to take alcohol and we're going to clean the rest of that off. Alright, so first I like to come in here with no alcohol on the Q-tip and kind of just get as much of the remaining blobs off as I can get. And again, you just push it all to one side, and if there's like a good enough amount to keep, you can suck it back into the syringe. If it's just like a super small amount, you just want to try to pick it up. And you don't want to try to spread it too far around. You want to try to contain it as much as possible. The reason for that is this stuff makes a huge mess. So we got most of it there. We're going to go ahead and put some alcohol on a cotton swab. Then we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to try to push it all towards the middle. Now that we have a majority of it there. We're going to go around the sides and try to push it all together. And usually what it'll do is it'll push it to the top of the heatsink right here, which is good. Then we can kind of combine it all back together again. And while you're doing this, you'll notice that it's kind of like a hazy look to the top of this, which is normal. That's what we're going to be trying to clean off. So now that we did that, I'm going to go ahead and grab a dry Q-tip again, just go around the sides and go over the top. Just try to get as much of it off as I can get. Alright. And then we're going to take another Q-tip and put alcohol on it again. And this time we're going to be actually doing the cleaning. I'm going to come around here, I'm going to clean the sides first. You want to make sure you don't get the liquid metal on this aluminum piece here too, because for one, it'll cause discoloration, which isn't too crazy, but it's also really hard to clean up off of this aluminum. Alright, so now that we got it round, we're going to go ahead and start scrubbing really good in circles on the top here. And we just want to get it as shiny as we can. It's not going to be perfect, especially because this console's probably been, you know, heating up in that one spot for quite some time. But it will pick up most of that. And the reason why you want to clean this off with alcohol is that liquid metal will not stick when it gets like that hazy look to it. It won't stick and it won't sit on here properly. Same thing with the APU. So now that we've got that, as you can see, the Q-tip's pretty trashed. I don't know if you can see that actually. Q-tip is all black there now from cleaning that off. And we're gonna take a dry one again. It's almost like doing like a cutting process on like paint for a car or something. You're gonna take the dry one and just circle around. Now it's a lot more shinier and it looks a lot better now. There still is that discoloration in the middle, but again, that's expected. At least we know the liquid metal will stick to it. Alright, so now that we have that cleaned off, we can go ahead and unscrew the aluminum piece here. Alright, so we're going to take our T9 bit again and just take off all these screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That should be all of them. Yep. Alright, so now we can go ahead and lift up on this aluminum piece here. Sometimes it'll stick right here. We're just going to push down and pull up as carefully as possible. Now the bottom side of this is going to be really dirty, so we're going to go ahead and brush that off. Alright, so that's it cleaned off there, looking nice and good again. The next step we're going to do is we're going to take out the heatsink here. So we need to break this tape or pull it off carefully, whatever you want to do to get that ribbon cable out of the way. And we're just going to move these two wires out of the way here. Now we can just pull up on the heatsink and it exposes the inside. So as you can see here, this console obviously had some overheating in it, and this is why. You can't even see through the heatsink anywhere, and it's all built up on the inside here as well. So we're going to go ahead and brush this off and get it nice and clean. Alright, so we got the top of the heatsink and the little radiator vents in there. We got those cleaned off really good. Next step that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take out the power supply. For the power supply, you just want to lift up on this side and watch out for these cables here. You don't want to break those. And we're going to have to brush all of this off here. As you can see, it's built up pretty bad right there, and you don't want that to be built up. It can kill your power supply because it can't vent out the heat. So we're going to brush that off. Now that's looking a lot better, a lot more clean. And of course, we need to brush out the inside of the plastics here, because that gets really bad. It gets a lot of dust caught in it. We're going to go ahead and brush that out as well. Alright, we got the inside of that cleaned out really good, so it's looking a lot better. Now we can start putting things back together. We're going to go ahead and start with the power supply, and you're going to want to slide it in this end first, where you would plug in your power cord. And then you're going to pick up these two ribbon cables back here to move them out of the way as you set it down. And then we can go ahead and put the heatsink back in. Again, you want to move these wires and that ribbon cable out of the way. And then just set it in there. And you want to make sure that these wires get held in this little clip right here, because when you go to close the console, same thing with this ribbon cable, you want to make sure it's out of the way where the screws go, because if it's in the way and you close up the console, it'll actually destroy both of those, which this one's more aesthetic than anything. It just makes the lights not work, so you don't know if your PlayStation's on or not. And then these ones right here, you don't have to worry about those ones too much. I think those are just like antennas, not quite sure. But now that we have that done, we can go ahead and put the bottom aluminum piece back on. I'm just going to slide that on there. It's going to be kind of loose, kind of wonky. You just want to make sure you watch out for these ribbon cables here. Then we can go ahead and put those screws back in. And again, we wouldn't have been able to take this out if we didn't take out those two screws on the back. Alright, we're going to go ahead and clean up this area again one more time. I'm not going to show that. But, you know, my hands were all over the heatsink trying to clean it, so we're going to clean that up again real quick. Alright, now we can put the liquid metal back on. So you're going to take your syringe that you picked it all up in, and you're just going to create a blob. You will be careful when you put this blob out. If you push too fast on the syringe, it can like spit, and if it spits, it'll of course spit everywhere you don't want it to, because that's how things work in life. And then you're going to take the Q-tip and you're just going to start dabbing around, and as you dab around, you can kind of just like swipe a little bit. You just want that liquid metal to stick everywhere. So we're just going to cover that as good as we can get it. And then once we have dabbed everywhere, we can go ahead and start spreading it out. Now for this, you're kind of like hovering, you're not like pressing down. So you're just trying to like move the liquid without touching down, because you want it to be as mirrored as possible. The finished look on this. It's not gonna be perfect, but that's okay as long as it does what it's supposed to do. Alright, I would say that that's pretty good. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing to the APU. Alright, so again we're gonna grab a clean Q-tip and just push as much of that liquid metal down as we can to one spot. Then we can go ahead and lift that with the syringe. Alright, well I just got it without videoing, sorry about that, but we're just gonna go around and try to suck as much of that liquid metal up as we can possibly get, especially around here. It gets in these little crevices here. We just want to try to get as much of that as we can. Alright. Now we can start cleaning this up. So we're gonna grab a clean Q-tip and try to move as much of it to one area as we can get it. And you want to try to get out of these crevices here, so we're going to go ahead and push down and swipe on the edges to try to get as much out of that as we can get. So as you can see, there's a little puddle underneath there, so we're just going to try to move that out. Looks like it got it. Alright, if it builds up on here, try not to get it on the motherboard. It will fry your motherboard. So we're just going to try to wipe it down inwards. Get it all to one corner. Now that's in one corner, we're going to go ahead and suck that a little bit up there. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and grab our alcohol and put it on one of the cotton swabs, or Q-tips. I'm going to start from the outside and try to brush as much of this off, of this little felt pieces I can get off, because you don't want it around that anymore. Too much of a risk that it'll get on the motherboard. Alright, that looks pretty decent. And we're just going to go around the inside here and also on the top and try to get that to come off. Alright, now we have a little blob right there, which we can go ahead and try to pick up with the dry side, kind of like turning it like so that it catches it. I'm going to take more alcohol with a new swab and try to clean in that little crevice down there. Try to push out as much as we can get out. And this just saves from having to take this whole thing off, because it's kind of a pain to take off. And we're just going to go ahead and wipe the top of the APU here with the alcohol. Then we're going to take a dry side and just do like a dry polish type of movement here, moving around in circles, trying to get it as shiny as we can get it. Alright, so that looks really good. Now we can go ahead and reapply the liquid metal. Same thing as with the heat sink. You want to just kind of push it out slowly so that it doesn't spit anywhere. You see how that liquid metal stuck right there? That's what cleaning it off does. It makes it stick really well. So now we need to spread that out. Alright, same motion as like on the heatsink. We're gonna kind of dab around the top of this with the liquid metal. It's almost like painting. You're like painting it on there by dabbing first. And then we're just gonna go ahead and mix this around. So we're doing that hovering thing right now. We're just hovering the liquid over those spots, trying to get it filled in. Alright, so it looks pretty decent. So now that we've got all that on there, we can go ahead and start putting everything back together. Alright, so we're going to put the motherboard on the same way that we took it off. Just want to carefully lay it on the top there. And make sure that these ribbon cables are out of the way. Make sure that these wires are out of the way, as well as these wires and this ribbon cable. And then just line it up here and here. And this is a little peg that I'll line it up to. And then once you have it sitting on there, you just push down on the power supply until it clicks in. We can go ahead and plug in this ribbon cable here. You just push it in there. We can go ahead and install the bracket back on. You don't want to like torque these down or anything, you just want to tighten them until they're tight. And then we can go ahead and throw the top aluminum piece back on here. Now that we have the aluminum piece sitting on top here, we're going to go ahead and screw all those screws back in. I like to start with corners first. So I do one down here by the HDMI port, one at the top corner up here, one at the other top corner, and then one at the bottom corner here. And the reason why I do that is you want this plate to be as aligned as possible, because if it's not, then the screws will like want to go in sideways. I'm gonna go ahead and get all this screwed in there real quick. Alright, now that we have all the screws screwed in, we're gonna go ahead and reroute all the wires. So they're labeled. Sometimes this wire is blue, sometimes it's black, so it'll be FB, and this wire here will be FW. That one won't change. Same thing on this side. It'll be RW and RB. And we just need to plug in that ribbon cable here. And we're going to plug in the power and eject button right there. And you just want to move this. If you save those pieces of tape, it's fine. If not, it's also fine. You just need to know how to reroute it so that it's out of the way of both the disk drive and the, see how it's pushing down right here? We just need to push up on that a little bit, get that out of the way. That way when we put everything together, these cables don't get crunched. Alright, so now we can go ahead and put the disk drive back on. And then slide that ribbon cable in there until it clicks. And then we can go ahead and put the top panel back on here. And screw that down. Alright, and still need to clean out the fan here, so I'm going to go ahead and get that cleaned out. Alright, so now that we got the fan cleaned out, we can go ahead and install that back in. And then plug that connector in for the fan. And then wire those little cables underneath this little plastic piece here. And then throw the gate on there. And then we got the longest screw here, plastic screw, 2 metal screws that are medium length. And then the small plastic screw. Alright, now that we have those screwed in, we're going to go ahead and put the other cable back in for the disk drive. You just want to pop that in there carefully. And reroute those wires underneath these little plastic tabs. And plug that in there. We can go ahead and throw that little sticker over the top. Hold that in. And let me wipe this. Now we can go ahead and put the SSD slot aluminum piece back on. And then put that screw in, which is the Phillips. We're just going to screw that down. And then we can throw this little plastic piece on here. Clip that in. So we're done with this side here. We can go ahead and put this panel back on. And then we have to put the screws back in the back. Screw right here. And screw right here. And just screw those in. Which just sucks everything on the inside back up, so it's all held nice and good. And then we can go ahead and put this panel back on. Just slide it until it kind of fits, and then push up. And that is how you deep clean your PlayStation 5. Thanks for watching.